Hey everybody, welcome back to An Actor Shares. I'm Jorge Chapa, or Jorge, or George, whatever you feel comfortable with, or it's easier for you to say. I am going to talk about my very first professional acting gig today, but before I get into that, I want to make sure you've seen some of my other videos, which I'm going to link down below, which is my very first interview in the interview series, and I interview my good friend and great actor, Danny Garcia. You got to check that out, and I plan on doing a lot more of those. And I also have some other videos on, my Freaky Friday where I talk about horror books and movies and stuff like that. So, jumping into today's topic is my very first professional acting gig. Back in 2014, I received my master's in acting from the New School for Drama. I started contacting agents on my own and managers, and I had one response from a manager who was willing to meet up with me. And sure enough, this guy went straight to work for me. Within the next couple of days, I think we met up on like a Thursday or a Friday. By Monday or Tuesday of the following week, which was 2 weeks after I graduated, I had two auditions. My first two professional acting auditions, and they were actually in the same building, two different casting offices. The first was for a movie called Staten Island Summer, written by Colin Jost from SNL, and it had a whole bunch of the SNL alum in there, and I think Jim Gaffigan was in there. And then right after that, I went, I think, up a couple floors to audition for Royal Pains, which was a show on USA at the time. Needless to say, I did not book either of those gigs. Later that afternoon, I get a breakdown from my manager that I'm freelancing with that says, I have an audition for you on Thursday. It's for an untitled cellular service. Okay. And I ended up, this happened to be in the same casting office where my New School callbacks were. So I felt a little nostalgia, and it's like, you know what? I got into the New School, I'm going to get this one. This is going to be my first. I get there, and it's for a commercial, and I have no idea how these things are run, because in grad school we never went over commercial auditions or anything like that. So I was wandering, to the sign-up sheet where there's always, one of the casting associates, like, they're signing in or, just taking names. And I see that there's the sides there, because I didn't even give a sides, and I'm like, okay, how do I do this? Well, luckily, a really good friend of mine shows up, my friend Bernardo, and he guides me along the way. And this actually happened to be for an AT&T commercial with the Yankees. And the premise of the commercial was doing the Yankee chant, the let's go Yankees, let's go Yankees. But we're doing it in a conversational form. So I got to read with my buddy Bernardo, and we both knew this chant, and I remember it perfectly. It goes, "What's up, Brian?" And the response goes, "Not much, Tony. I scored tickets. Can you go, dude?" That's how it went. The next day, or later on that afternoon, I got a call from my manager saying, "Hey, you got a callback." Holy crap, I didn't know what to do. And I remember the callback was on a Friday. And so I get to the callback. I was hoping to see my friend there, and unfortunately he was not there. But I noticed that there was two other Latino guys, and then there was three Asian looking guys. And it's hilarious because each guy matched one of the other guys. Like, there was a big Latino, me, and there was a big Asian, another guy. And then there was a middle-sized, Asian, and the middle-sized Latino, and then there was like a prettier, Asian and Latino. And so they had us, get the sides again and go over the commercial, and there was just one guy that was just complaining the whole time that he was there because he needed to leave early. He got there early so he could leave early, and he was just saying stuff like, I got here early just so I can avoid this. This is ridiculous. I can't stand this. What are they doing here? And I'm just thinking to myself, like, dude, be grateful you're here at an audition. You're at a callback. This is great. There's 6 of us. This is great, right? And I also kept saying, it's like, I knew that we were going to have to read together, so I was hoping I didn't have to read with that guy. And so I had my fingers crossed. It's like, please, I'll read with one of the other guys. God, please. And so they called in the first group, and I was like, oh, shoot. There's 3 guys left, so hopefully I don't read with this guy. Yeah. I had to read with this guy, the negative Nelly, out in the waiting room. And when we go in the room, you know, I'm smiling, and he starts putting on a show like, "Hey, everybody, what's going on?" Like, "Hey," fake laugh. I hate when people do the fake laugh. If you're gonna go into an audition, be yourself. Don't put on any kind of show. You know, only the show you need to put on is the scene that they give you, the commercial. Like, you don't have to like be fake. And I was already annoyed with this guy. It was my first callback, and we start the commercial, and the director's actually on a Skype interview, and you know, they said, "Hey, so start it off." And so I do the, "What's up, Brian?" And you know, he's like, "Not much, Tony." And I looked at him, I was like, "I scored tickets, can you go, dude?" And he's like, yeah, whatever. He just did not know the Yankee chant. And I was thinking to myself, like, you don't have to be a Yankees fan. You don't even have to be a sports fan, but everybody knows that chant. The it just, it's universal. Everyone knows it. And so he was just bombing this thing, and I was bombing it because of him. And I was already upset, and I was frustrated, and I was like, you know what? It was a great first callback. You know, there will be more. I left the room, and the guy was like, "That was great, huh?" And I was thinking to myself, like, no, it wasn't great. It was really, really bad. But he walked off, and you know, at this casting office, there's a lot going on. They have like 5 or 6 different rooms. I think the room next to us was casting Peter Pan Live on that time. There was an untitled show at the very first room, and then I can't remember the other commercial that they were shooting or casting for in the next one. And then there was like a casting for just young girls, like 14, 15-year-old girls. And so I'm walking out, and I'm already just glum and upset, because it's just like, this dude just was not helpful at all. He kind of felt like he ruined it for us, and I was just like, shoot, you know what, next time, right? And as before I leave, a young lady stops me, and she's like, "Hey, do you know where the restrooms are at?" And I'm like, "Yeah, they're right over, you know, there." And then I look at her, and I see these big blue eyes. Yeah, and it was Amanda Seyfried. She was getting looked at for one of the plays that were going on, and I was like, "Oh, I know you." But she was gone before I could say anything, and I was like, that was awesome. At least I had one victory today. And I left the casting office. I called my wife, and I was a little bummed because of, you know, the guy's behavior, and I had to read with that guy, and so she's like, "Well, just go entertain yourself while you know, before I get out of work." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll wait around the city for you." So I went to the movies at AMC Empire 25 on 42nd Street, and I saw X-Men First Class. And so I watched the movie. It was just a good distraction to forget about that the horrible callback that I had. And then my wife and I went to Chili's in Jersey City afterward, and we had dinner. And so we're having dinner, and she's like, "So what did you think? How did it go?" And I was just telling her about how this guy's negative attitude led into the room with us, and I just felt horrible. And then it was about 7 or 8 o'clock, I get a call. And I was like, I don't know this number. So I picked it up, and it's like, "Jorge, I just want to schedule a fitting for you tomorrow at 1. Are you able to do that?" And I was like, hello? Who is this? It's like, "Hey, this is so-and-so from the AT&T commercial." And I was like, "Oh." And they're like, "Wait a minute. They haven't told you yet, huh?" And I was like, "Told me what?" And the person on the other line was like, "I'll call you back." So then I look at Rosa, my wife, and, you know, you could see her right there. I looked at her, and she was like, what's going on? And I said, "I think I might have booked this commercial." And she's like, "What?" And I said, "That was somebody asking for a fitting. Maybe they got it wrong. I don't know." And so I called the manager I was freelancing with, and he didn't answer. And then finally, about, you know, an hour later, he calls me back and says, "Jorge, I'm so sorry. My father was in surgery. I was in the hospital this whole time with him. You did book this commercial. And congratulations. It's your first big gig in New York. And, you know, have fun." And so that's how I booked my first commercial, and it ended up being the Yankees commercial with AT&T. I'll actually post the video, like I'll link it down below so you could see it. We shot our spot. It was a 30-second spot. I shot my portion in an office, and then we went to the stadium, and we're surrounded by Yankee fans, and it was just one of the greatest experiences I ever had because it was my first commercial. Everybody was awesome, and the commercial was super fun. So that is my tale of my very first commercial. There wasn't a lot to it because the commercial was pretty, cut and dry. Like I do my office scene, and then we do the stadium scene, and then my buddy Jordan was doing the house scene on another day. So that was it, and I have to thank Bernardo for giving me luck, because I ran into him a few months later that was in June, and in November I ran into him and I booked my second commercial. So he is kind of my lucky charm. Great guy. You need to check out his podcast, Off and On. It's about a theater podcast, so I'll try to link that down below as well. Thank you for watching once again, and stay tuned. I have a special video tomorrow that I think you're gonna really like it. So subscribe, tell your friends, and please continue watching. There's gonna be a lot more. Have a great day.